to this, and this is Ring of Honor's A New Level, which of course was their show from the Manhattan Center, but also from the big, the luxurious, the blah blah blah, all that sort of things, from the beloved, from the historic. How exactly it became historic, I'm not exactly sure. Hammerstein Ballroom. This is it. This is the show that everyone was hyped about. This is the show that I wanted to go to. I know lots of guys from YouTube ended up going to. This is a big show, probably a lot of people's view the biggest show at this point in time, as far as event-wise, that Ring of Honor ever put on, which I do believe in the power of, I talked about this in the last video, of events, of going to different venues. This is one of them. The original ECW arena is another one that I, hopefully now that they've had kind of a change of ownership there, we're going to be able to see Ring of Honor there more, because I do think it's important for them to play there, if just for symbolic reasons, and I do think that you do have to, symbolic reasons do matter, even though people say, they don't really matter. To me, they do matter, because I do think that people have that in the back of their head, kind of that subconscious, on that subconscious level, that it does matter to an extent. But here, this was it. This was a pretty freaking big show, which you saw right away. They opened the show, and this show they did the show very differently. They started the show, nobody talking. Then with the camera, they walked in through the crowd, walked inside, showed the guys patting people down, walked to the actually to the Ring of Honor, where they had their little kiosk for all their merchandise set up, and then they walked into the event, so you could just see how massive the event kind of is, or the venue is. And then they cut away, they came back, and all the crowd was there, and they introduced you to everybody, and there was no really backstage stuff for most of the night. It was pretty much just them giving the show for what the show was, for the people who could not be there for the show, which I think is kind of a cool kind of concept, particularly for a show like this, and it had this much hype, and that fans really were looking forward to this. This show drew well over 2,000 people. I believe it was somewhere in the 2,200 range. Pretty big show for Ring of Honor, particularly with no TV and basically just from the DVDs. This is a pretty hype show, though. People had been looking forward to this for at least 2 years that I know of, so this was a big deal. We started the night off with a triple threat match of Roderick Strong, Eric Stevens, and Go Shiozaki. Go Shiozaki, of course, being the odd man out, as Roderick Strong and Eric Stevens already had a feud going. And this was basically, if you love matches with lots of chops and just stiff matches, you, like me, were in heaven in this match. It didn't go long. It went just a little bit over 5 minutes, I would say. Wasn't a long match, but what was there was a lot of fun, and it's what a triple threat match should be. Just kind of non-stop action, lots of fun, lots of chops, lots and lots and lots of chops, but a pretty good little fun match, I felt. Nothing that a good match, actually. A good 3 stars. In the last show I talked about, the last Ring of Honor DVD review I did, I talked about the lack of them giving good openers, and this was definitely a good opener in my opinion, and really worked and got the fans into it and set up a good dynamic for the rest of the night. Next we had Steen and Generico versus Davey Richards and Rocky Romero. This was pretty nice. This was I would say a good, solid match. All the guys kind of doing their thing. It was fun. What you would expect from these guys. Nothing, nothing out of the ordinary. Davey Richards and Rocky Romero, why they can put on good matches. Steen and Generico are the type of guys that are going to have to drag them to great matches, just because, Davey Richards and Rocky Romero are what they are, basically. And not that they're not great wrestlers, and not that they can't put on great matches, but it takes a little something to get there. and Steen and Generico usually have that. They kind of had it tonight. It was, you know, just kind of wasn't there. I don't think. You know, I don't think you ever got the feeling that Steen and Generico were going to win the titles, just from watching the match. Even though, you know, I pretty much already knew it was going to happen. So, but a good 3.5-star match, starting off pretty good for the night. Then we had a tag team scramble with Chris Hero and Brent Albright taking on the Vulture Squad, taking on Delirious and Pelle Primeau. And this was a lot of fun for various reasons. This was wild and crazy and total spot fest. But again, it's one of those types of matches where, you know, they had all these guys in there and it was still a lot of fun. And I know people hate me saying this, but it's the truth. This is the type of match TNA needs to put on in the X Division. It really is. And you had guys who wouldn't even, you know, Brent Albright's not an X Division guy. He's, you know, he's a standard wrestler guy. Good match, had a lot of good stuff in it. The ending was actually very good. It was fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. I really did. I'd give it 2 3/4 stars. Wasn't long, but you know, a match doesn't have to be long to be fun. So there you go. After the match, though, we had a little bit of an angle development as finally Brent Albright turned on Sweet and Sour, which we had been waiting for and waiting for and waiting for. With him actually taking Shane Hattagorn through a table, which looked absolutely nasty. When you see it, you're like, oh my god. It's not even like the people. It's funny because people that were like not right there where he fell were like, oh, that was awesome. The people that were like, oh my god, is he dead? I mean, it's that sick of a bump. The crowd absolutely loved Albright after this. Was a nice turn. Was nice story development. Really showed, you know, how Ring of Honor does things the good way. Really like this. Next we had Bryan Danielson versus Marufuji. What else do you say about these guys? These guys actually had it. It felt very much like we're just going to go out there and just do what we do, and it's going to be great. And it was great. It was 4 stars, and it was wonderful, and it was a lot of fun, and the fans were into it, and I was into it, and they were into it, and it worked. And not much more you can say about these two because they just have such good chemistry with each other. It's not funny. Then we had one of the greatest promos of the year, or segments, I should say, of the year. Daisy Haze comes out. She's announcing the new attendance record for ROH. Delirious comes out. They've been working on this whole little thing where Delirious had a crush on Daisy Haze, and he's speaking gibberish and kind of talking to her, and he's trying to ask her out for dinner. And then Titus comes out and totally blows it. The fans were loving it. I was loving it. This is where the famous "You Got Cock Blocked" chant started that maybe some of you have heard about. This was very funny. Worked on so many levels. Delirious showed why, you know, even though he's small, he should be in the WWE, because this is the type of thing. He's so good at stuff like this that you would think one of the WWE writers would go, oh my god, can you imagine what we could do with this guy? His facial expressions are just so wonderful. I mean, he told so much with doing so little. It was wonderful and very good, and it definitely worth seeing this segment. Without a doubt, in my opinion, it was so much fun. I don't usually grade segments. Every once in a while, they're really good. I give this 3.5 stars. This is a segment. I think it really worked. Didn't drag the show down. Didn't feel like it was hurting the show at all. Really felt like it belonged in the show. Next, we had Morishima, the new Noah Heavyweight Champion, or the GHC Heavyweight Champion, taking on Necro Butcher. This was a match I was looking extremely forward to. This was a match a lot of people were looking extremely forward to because we thought we were going to see just a stiff, crazy match. And we saw a stiff match, but it was a stiff, freaking Morishima burying Necro, and basically just Necro being out there to get destroyed by Morishima. I understand why they would probably want to do this. I didn't necessarily like it. I thought that they could have at least, you know, Necro has a good enough cult following I would even imagine in Japan with the death match crowd, that, you know, Morishima could at least sold something. What this was just kind of there. It was 2 stars. It was just okay. It was kind of fun in places because you were like, oh, it was kind of sick and nasty, but it was just kind of what it was. Next we had the Briscoe, or not the Briscoes, but we had Jay Briscoe and Austin Aries defending the ROH tag titles in a no DQ match versus Jimmy Jacobs and Tyler Black. This match was stupid. Not because it wasn't good, because it was great. Not because the guys didn't go out there and put on a great match. Not because it didn't prolong the storylines. But because here you had Jay Briscoe and Austin Aries, who are not even the tag team champions, defending the tag team championships, and definitely something that it didn't look like they were definitely going to continue to probably do this. We found out later after this, and I'm not grading this because I knew what happened afterwards, but even just how this ended was stupid, because Jimmy Jacobs and Tyler Black should have won these titles. I'm not even talking about what happened afterwards. I'm not even talking about what happens shows down the road. Just for this event, there was no reason for Jimmy Jacobs and Tyler Black not to have the championships. I don't know why Gabe decided this was a brilliant and marvelous idea. Just give them the championships and then let them, whatever happened, happened. I never understood why they took the championships off of Jimmy Jacobs and Tyler Black to start with the No Remorse Corps. I really didn't get it. I thought that they should have definitely, you know, I don't think the No Remorse Corps needed those titles as much as the Age of the Fall did. And then once the Age of the Fall had it, then the Briscoes could come back from Japan, and you could have continued that feud just like you have. Wouldn't have hurt nothing. Hindsight's 20/20, I guess. But this was a good match. I don't want to say it wasn't, but it just, the ending really just kind of just pissed me off in a lot of ways. I was like, this is just stupid. Because this did make a lot of sense to me. And I like stuff that makes sense. That's one of the things I like about Ring of Honor, because most of the stuff, even the stuff that people go, oh, well, that's just kind of, I was like, yeah, but it makes sense, and I like that. This, to me, didn't make sense. This gets 3.5 stars. A lot of people probably think I underrated it. I really don't care. It's what I like. Then we got to the main event. Nigel McGuinness versus Claudio Castagnoli. I was looking very forward to this. I am a, McGuinness fan, as a lot of people know. I'm also a Claudio fan. I was looking very forward to this. And these guys went out there, and not that they put on a bad match, but they just put on an okay match. Or not an okay match, just a good match. And this is the main event of the biggest show in Ring of Honor history. Now, I will say this. I don't think Claudio should have been in this match. I think Bryan Danielson should have been in this match. I understand why they didn't stick him in this match, but still, it would have made it seem like a much more bigger event feel if that had been the case. Particularly since, unless you were going to put Bryan Danielson versus Morishima, there was no reason to do this match, in my opinion. And also the fact that they went out there and they didn't put on a great match. They were given time to. Everything was there. It's just they weren't able to get... The fans weren't into it. They weren't able to really feed off the fans. It just didn't work. It was good, though. It was a good 3-star match, but that was about it. It just didn't work. Overall, though, I thought this was a lot of fun and still pretty... still a great show. I wouldn't call it a good show. I would call it a great show, as I'm giving it an 8.0. But I like the atmosphere. I like the fact that they did continually show the fans, and just how many fans were there. I thought that was very good. You got the concept up throughout the entire show that it was sort of a big show. It'll be interesting to see how the next show they do there. I think they might do a little bit better of just being that it's going to be one of the major shows. This wasn't necessarily a major show. It was just felt like another New York show that happened to take place in the Hammerstein Ballroom. But other than that, that's pretty much all I got to say about this. Little minor quibbles, nothing major. The next reviews I'm going to do are the new Koch DVDs that come out. The first one of those will probably be tomorrow, or should be tomorrow. So look for those. I'm out. Have a good one. later.